meaning that I stumbled across this before it had been activated, whatever that was. So
you went out doing a lot of interviews then, didn't you, at this time to get the word out?
This was exactly it, because first when I really carefully studied this whole thing, I felt, I think I'm onto something here. And if what I see here is correct, this could be bigger than 9/11. I mean, this could be, can you imagine 39 attacks within 36 hours? Do you know how much that is? Just imagine you being at home and suddenly you start hearing in major cities around Europe, boom, 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 boom.
Just want to do a bit of a vid because I've been getting so many people message me about the stuff that Annette's posting, and we've actually got the conference bios and stuff up now for the Sky Earth conference starting November 7, and Annette's coming on, so she's going to give a presentation on that.
That's where the human heart chakra is. So it's hiding behind the root. So the root is the moon, and we all know about the dark side of the moon. We just don't know what's on the dark side of the moon. But what's on the dark side of the moon, what the dark side of the moon represents is the big secret, which is the human heart.
But I feel so many people have asked me about it, and so I thought I've got to address it. But look at, check this out. Got the Remedy hat on. So first of all, like the stuff Annette's posting about November 8th, right? Now, I caught up with Annette a couple of times, caught up with her a couple of days ago, and yeah, beautiful person, love her, love the way she thinks, love her mind, and she's got a really interesting history and perspective and understanding on how she's seen things. And she agreed with me that what we're looking at and why you'll see patterns of things everywhere is why I always go back to we're living in the hologram. So if something's true somewhere, it'll be shown to be proven everywhere. And this goes the same for numbers, patterns, and everything like this. And how Annette explains the chakras and the meaning of things. So like an example was she was using like the solar plexus in Australia as a landmass. Uluru is the solar plexus. The US as a government is a solar plexus, right? And this is how fractalized reality works. That the microcosm is everywhere. You can see the micro and the macro everywhere. So whatever you're looking for, you're going to see these patterns in reality all over the place, in the micro and the macro, right? And again, like if you're looking at major events taking place and a traumatizing event and seal events, right, too. So if they're happening on a global scale, what does that tell you in the macro? In the micro, it tells you that that's happening to the human being. Does it not? Right? If things are about activating or closing certain portals and chakra points on the planet, you're in a microcosm. The human body is a microcosm of the planet, so it tells you that that's happening on the inner reality as well too. And as far as like predicting dates and stuff like that, I will never ever fucking go there. And like, you know, balls to her for pointing out the date. And I know she's coming from a place of integrity. And this is what Ole Demigod, who's also coming on, it's actually perfectly timed that he's coming on again now.
The meaning of life is to find out the meaning of life. We're being dropped down here without a manual. And the thing is, find out what the hell are we doing here? What in the heaven's name are we doing here? And come to the conclusion. And the conclusion in my world is that love is the answer. The way forward is to take whatever info, deal with it here, and then live in a way where you show that I can handle this truth. I mean, I know more than anyone I know about horrible stuff. I should be super depressed. I should be hanging from a rope every third hour, you know, like, oh God, I'm going to kill myself now. No, now I'm going to kill myself, you know, but I'm not. So what I'm trying to do is show that I can take that burden on my shoulders, but I can surf with it.
Because when I first heard about this plan was through him in 2019, and he talks about a guy, selector marked this guy within the NATO. It was within a NATO meeting, and the synchronicities around Ole even finding this. There's some crazy divine powers working through him, and how he sees and reads synchronicity, and then people and information and stuff that will come into his attention through this process of being open, right? And the humility that he has of knowing that he doesn't know. If he doesn't know something, he will say that he doesn't know. And what this has led him to was to be able to follow the clues. And they call this process demigodding now, which they've turned his name into a verb, which means looking for the clues. And what Annette is doing through the process of the stuff that she's posting on her White Pill Instagram page, and I hope that she doesn't crack it at me for saying this, what she's doing is a form of demigodding too. So you are able to see foreshadowing events within the field and within numbers, and also within the layout of both the natural world and the man-made world. You're going to see the same patterns. And this is why when people are making movies and writing songs, and they're following this formula, that not every artist is a fucking dark occultist or even a light occultist that knows this information and that is putting this information down through songs in a formulaic pattern that is following this blueprinted story, right? And I've explained it many times too. The story everywhere is the hero's journey. Even what Annette's talking about, the sending up the chakras, is the second half of the hero's journey story, which tells me that it has to be a descension through the chakras and then an ascension back up, right? So anyway, she's doing a form of demigodding. And what Ole found out, and he's been able to stop or alter dozens of terror attacks all around the world, right? Stage ones. I think it's over 30 or 40 ones that he's been able to stop. And what he did was he was approached by a Freemason that told him, and he was the person that told him about the shoes. And he said, you're doing very well in uncovering these operations and these attacks, but you're missing the clues. And he's like, well, what clues? And he said, they always leave clues for the next event. And not just in events, but they leave clues everywhere. And this is a whole case study that you can go into that we're not going to go into now, but everyone knows this, how they have to show you what they're going to do. And it's not just they have to show you how to do, it's actually a pattern in reality, right? So, and this brings up the free will thing. What can we impact and alter to happen, and what needs to happen? And what Ole did was he was able to stop these attacks from happening, and in doing so, every single terror attack is linked to the next one. And what he showed was there is actually a group of black operatives that were going all around the world. Not only, if you remember, through the 20 teens, there was a terror attack every other day, right? All over the place. And what they were doing was, he calls it the global tour of terror, and they would flying these operatives all around the world, and they would strategically do them in certain locations. And a lot to do with the locations is to do with the occult. And Annette spoke about how they're doing these in Australia on the east and moving west, right, too. And what Ole has shown, that especially when you see the positioning of two shoes next to a body, and you see this all the time, this is a homage to the sacred space, and this goes all the way back to Moses and the burning bush, how he removes his shoes for God, right? Which shows that you're standing on holy ground, you're in the presence of the divine, you must remove your shoes. So it tells you that there's something sacred about these locations, and they are trying to do something, I believe, in activating certain areas. So an example of this is when the Sydney stabbings that kind of set this whole second seal off, or the early stages, was they positioned the shoes, right? And they positioned the shoes near the body. So this tells you there's something about that area, Westfield, in Sydney, that was important. And then, there's many other reasons why they choose these locations, but what Ole has shown, but when you alter or stop a certain event from happening, they either have to completely cancel the event or do it at a later date.
But the way I've been able to stop other terror attacks or planned one, I stopped one outside the Bilderberg meeting in 2014, and other places as well, where I actively went in and messed it up for them. And the way I've done that is not because I'm heavily armed or very good at karate. It's to get the word out there before it goes down. That is the only option we have. And since I've been doing all of these more than 1,000 interviews, I have an incredible network of radio hosts all over the world that are on top. You know, they are really, you know, fearless and fast and eager to make a difference. So my tour organizer and I, we sat down and said, listen, stop the car, boom. I said, this is what I see. Are you with me? Because then we can do it like this. And so from 4 p.m. that day on the 17th of October until 4 a.m., 12 hours straight, I did interviews. He helped me contact all of these different shows. I did like 5-10 minute interviews saying, listen, guys, I do not know. I have no idea if I'm correct or not, but this is what I've stumbled across. This is what I see. If you believe that this is of value, please help share this information to as many as possible. Because if we can manage to get the spotlight enough on this whole thing, there is a chance for us that we can manage to stop it by them being too exposed.
And when you do this, this is a timeline altering thing. It shifts the time that they can do something because they're on a very specific schedule. And when you know that they have to do a lot of these things around occultic dates, that it completely can scramble them. So they are very much set in stone because they're operating on a finite system, right? So this is why they're very set on key dates. But I don't buy into the finite, and the finite is part of a blueprinted program. And I said before how this artificial intelligence is completely based on the finite. It's based on predictable patterns, yet we are infinite beings within a finite system, and the infinite being that is aware of his true infiniteness becomes the anomaly, right, and has the ability to change the trajectory of these events. So going back to this, I still think there is a degree of some of this that has to play out in the collective. And the collective, again, is your own subconscious. And when you see the hero that works their way through the story, the hero is every person in the story. The hero is the adversary that he's fighting against. He's the hero. He's the allies and friends that he finds along the way. The hero is the process of going through the belly of the whale deep into the unconscious. And Annette spoke about how the feet is the unconscious, and the feet is Pluto, and we're entering into this stage now with Pluto coming into Aquarius after it's finished its retrograde. I think it's coming out very soon, right? And Pluto in Aquarius just absolutely shatters power structures. So what we're seeing, we're absolutely seeing an exposure of what's happening. If you go back to the movie The Dark Knight Rises, right, there is, listen to this for theme, there is an economic collapse at Wall Street that is being done artificially by men. They've manipulated it. The money's being drawn out. The city goes into lockdown. There is major infrastructure attacks. The bridge is collapsed. The tunnel system and the underground rail system is knocked out, and the elites, prisoners are released, and what you could call now is sleeper cells are released into the American population and released out of prisons. What we're seeing, people coming from places like El Salvador and Venezuela that have come up through the US border, they are being released. In the movie, prisoners are being released. There is the use of the word God, and also there is this righteous anger towards the elites for what has happened, and particularly those that are blamed on destroying the economy. The other part is Gotham City is absolutely New York. So anyway, the elites go on trial. The city, the police are basically taken out. It becomes a lawless kind of area. But then the major thing is the city is under threat from a nuclear bomb, that they don't know who holds the trigger and when the bomb is going to go off. These are the major themes, right? There's so much more to this movie, and even the Christian Bale Batman figure, that he goes into exile, just like Jesus as well. He goes down into this cave or prison, right, that he's stuck in, that there's no way out, and he can only see the light, and eventually he gets out through his own his own beliefs and stuff like that. And the term they use, I won't go all through that, there's so much to this story, but if you're taking in those major themes, and I did a video on the Dark Knight Rises, like right at the beginning of COVID, 4 years ago, just to show a lot of the stuff that was coming out there. And you even like, because I even used it, like Bane had the mask, right? So anyway, I think a lot of these themes are going to play out. And if you listen to the Q stuff too, which again, if something's true, it'll be proven from multiple different vantage points, and people don't want to look at the Q stuff, but a lot of it is very fucking accurate. And I believe Q is being done by quantum computing and AI, so it's unpredictable blueprinted programs, right, that certain things need to play out, and they're all riding on certain percentages. But what they speak about is that America will go again through a new Cuban Missile Crisis.
I call it the N-word. He uses the N-word, the nuclear word, all the time. That's a no-no. You're not supposed to do that. He uses it on a daily basis, and everybody's so afraid. So would you do instead of, excuse me, it's a little complicated. Biden's saying, oh, he's got nuclear weapons. He keeps saying he's got You cannot use the nuclear word ever.
You can almost predict within a percentile, I would say 100% certain, that you're going to have a major terrorist attack in our country because of what they're letting into our country on the southern border.
I looked up The Dark Knight Rises, came out July 19th, 2012. So I haven't looked at that date either, because that can be interesting. But who is the Batman character? What's his name? Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne grew up in, I think, Fifth Avenue, or like Wall Street, the financial district. He was a billionaire from New York, right? That's this vigilante kind of figure. You know, like there's lots of hallmarks of Trump. And I think there's even stories about how like Trump was staying, Christian Bale was staying in Trump Tower when they were filming The Dark Knight Rises. And there's all these other kind of weird coincidences around that. But like, I think, and people go, well, what are these movies, right? Absolutely, there's, and actually, if you look at who funded a lot of these movies, I know, like with the Marvel movies and stuff, like and Iron Man and all that kind of stuff, that these were being funded by Department of Defense funding, and that's been known for a long time, that, you know, they were using people in military to write propaganda for, you know, movies like Black Hawk Down and all these kind of things to push that American patriotism and foreign war intervention and all that kind of stuff. But there's other elements within the military too, right? So it's just fucking super interesting. But as far as I actually love Annette's coming on to do a presentation about the heart and everything that comes with it, and this is going to be epic, and I'd love and so people that come onto Sky to Earth are able to come in and ask questions and stuff after her presentation, but I'd like to do a podcast with her before, it's just like more of a chat. But anyway, I just wanted to like clear, like anyone that's, if you're in fear mode about anything, and this, like, I think, like with Annette, is like if you know something and you have a respect and honor for the truth, then your role is to speak it. But as far as being completely attached to the outcome, fuck, who knows, man? Like, nothing is set in stone. Nothing is set in stone. It's all, yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. But, yeah, actually, like, if you look, the one I found really interesting, because I went up to the shrine the other week, they took the middle bits out. There's 7x7 squares in each four corners of the shrine, on the outside of the shrine. And the shrine in Melbourne, they've opened up a new underground rail system to the shrine that is called the Anzac, I can't remember what it's called. It's called like Anzac Station, I think. But originally, and this is what they do, and this is like the old thing of how the old Khazarians and stuff changed their name. You know, they had names like Bauer and Steen and stuff like that. And then they started to anglicise their names. It's a way of hiding, but they do this with other things as well too. And Anzac Station, which hasn't even officially opened, I don't think, has already had a name change. And the original name of Anzac Station, which is yet to open, is the Domain. Now, of course, you have the King's Domain, which is over near the shrine. But Domain, I think, is like the house of the Lord, or homage to the Lord, right? So interesting name to choose, and then not even go with. So it was originally called the Domain, and they changed it, and that's been highlighting this number 8, right? And if you look at this new Anzac Station, it's 17 meters in height, which again is an 8. And this, you know, I've done whole things on 17 is the number of the flip, because it's an 8, but not just because it's an 8. 17 is a very important number. So the 17 is built into there. But then also, if you look over, there's I think it's called the South African Memorial or something, or War Memorial, and it's positioned right near Anzac Station, and it's a big obelisk. And it was said to be put there to commemorate the Boer War or whatever. And obviously, you know, the obelisk is all over the place, especially for war memorials. But this one's, yeah, it's just interestingly positioned. And this obelisk was taken down for the construction of Anzac Station, and then has just been placed up. Because I went there with my friend Glenn, and he's like, oh, they've put this obelisk up, but it was originally there and was taken down and then repositioned. So I think that is an important thing to look at too, the removal and then positioning of new things. So anyway, the 8 is a very interesting one, and for me, the most simplest way to describe the 8, and you can go into it in so many different angles, is the 8 is the mirror. And the conversation I was having with Annette the other day when we caught up, we were talking about the chakras and the planets, and I think Annette calls Mars 5. But if you look at the story of the solar system, in that you have the first 4 planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, right? And then you have the asteroid belt. Then you have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, right? So 4 more, 4 on each side. And then Pluto, which they've decided to downgrade as a planet. So you technically only got 8 in that system, but there, you know, there's really 9 and even more. But you have the asteroid belt, which is after the first 4, right? Not including the sun. So the asteroid belt, and this is what I spoke about before, is this story of splitting or separating the 8. And that, if you look at splitting or separating the 8, it's basically the balance or middle point within the hourglass and the mirrored reality. And Jason always speaks about you are operating in 2 realities. You are in a mirror of this reality, and if you look at the Gnostic diagram of the universe, it is literally a mirror. It is a mirror. It is the exact same picture at the top as the bottom. One is the fluid reality, one is the hardened 3D reality, but they are both the mirror of each other. And this is what I've showed through so many different examples in movies, and especially the best one through the Neverending Story, of this mirror scene, whereas because I told you before that the hero is every character within the story, and within the Neverending Story, the guy reading the book is watching the character that he's reading through each other, through the mirror. He is everyone, right? He's able to see the mirrored reality. But this ritual is called the separating or breaking of the 8, where you split. The point is to split and sever the realities. And they can do this on portal spaces too, where whatever you're trying to bring into this reality, you can trap in this reality through separating it, because ultimately the goal is to reach this perfect middle point, right? And this is what I spoke in my presentation down in Wood End, that this middle point, if you did a cross like this, that within the structure of the universe, within the hologram, every time you're compressing down onto a different level, the further and further you're coming down, you are understanding knowledge, you're understanding love, on a different level. Sorry, knowledge on a different level. And then for the swings from light to dark on each side is you're understanding love on a different level. So it makes the Christian cross, right? Which is what? The perfect balance point is to understand knowledge and hold and understand knowledge and love in balance. That's what it's all about, right? That's what I can see anyway. But so you can see how they're trying to, the attempt to separate the eight, to split and keep sever these realities. And this is why I always said the one where, that quote, you know, if you're one-eyed, you want to control two-eyed, you must keep two-eyed blind. And the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So it's basically, it's a control through perception that you know that those who you are trying to control are infinite, and that which is controlling, that, you know, Jason may call AIX, that which is controlling is finite. So the finite, to keep the infinite trapped within itself must convince the infinite that it is not infinite, right? And this is all the layers of programming of religion and the savior and stuff, and giving your life and your power over to a deity. And I mean any deity. If you give your life, I don't care what the religion is, if you're doing that, you're submitting and admitting that you are finite. And the reason you know that is because heaven is this eternal promise, the promise of eternal life. Now, if you're a God that is finite, then of course you're going to make the offer, you know, this false deceptive offer of eternal life. And how can a finite offer you eternal life? If you are eternal, then that is your creator given, you know, that you're eternal. You can't offer a being infinity and eternity that already is those things. The only way you can do that is to convince them that they are not. So even just in that belief system is an acknowledgement from people's perception that they are finite. It's so simple, right? So anyway, when you go into like all these bigger understandings and stuff, you can understand why they're trying to split the 8. And this is why I think that Annette is onto something with the 8-11, because what is 8-11? You've got the 8 and then you have the 11. And this is, I said before, like with World War II, it's not written like a 2, it's written like that. It's 2 1s, because that was written to separate the 8. And the 11, they used the 11 for the continuation of war. That's why when they did the 9/11 Twin Towers, they hit the Twin Towers of like the birthing, right? That means, and what happened? We had this continuous war in the Middle East that was never designed to end, and it was all built into the 2 towers being an 11, and also the date being an 11. So, and it's the same with World War One. World War One ended on 11/11/11. Why? Because they'd never wanted the war to end. It was continuous, and World War Two was just an extension of World War One. And then you've got the 2 that Churchill did. He put up the peace sign, again, not for peace, but actually separation and the continuation of that war. And what we're seeing now is, again, just like we had the continuation of World War II was the Cold War, and then what we're seeing today. And what I think is going to be a multi-state, multi-city terrorist attack to be blamed on Iran. And again, to be part of a retaliation to what Israel is doing.
You can almost predict within a percentile, I would say 100% certain, that you're going to have a major terrorist attack in our country because of what they're letting into our country on the southern border.
This section of the Mexico-Texas border is called Eagle Pass, and it's one of the most popular crossing locations for illegal migrants to get into the U.S. More than 300,000 people cross here every month. And
most of them are Islamic, and they're being put in these countries deliberately. And you're right, they're military age. Every bit of this is by design. It's not just to create an imbalance. This is a deliberate plant of a fifth column in all the Western nations. That's exactly what this is. It's you got to call a spade, and it's exactly, precisely what is needed to basically have the Western nations come together and declare war on the Middle East. It's exactly what is needed, and it's all by design.
They let them through. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
They've set up UN camps all over Central and South America that I covered today in great detail with investigative journalist Michael Yon to bring them into the country. The same invasion strategy that was used on Europe in the last 15 years. This is all official. And when you watch the congressional hearings, they never bring up State Department money funding over 70% of it. The UN funds 10%, Communist China funds on average 20%. So in a consortium of the U.S. government and Communist China and the UN, they built these giant refugee centers and fly people and pay them to come and then stage and invade the United States. Because if they built a UN camp in northern Mexico, it'd be too obvious. So they do it in Panama and other areas.
No terror, zero, for 4 years. All those people you see come in the invasion, and it is an invasion, and many of them happen to be all male, from 18 to 25 years old, perfect age for a soldier. 27,000 from China. Think of that. Are they building an army within our country? Could that be possible?
Not even a secret. The playbook's been known. But in order to get the Western world to absolutely rise up in arms and to take up that nationalist, take up that pride, and all come together to fight a common enemy, it's going to take a catalyst. And Funky Prepper, that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the elitist prepare the catalyst. That's what all this is about. It's all about putting all these cells out. This isn't a condemnation of Islam. This isn't a condemnation of people from the Middle East. It's not. This is cultures, races, nationalities being used as pawns by elitists.
So there's so many different aspects to this. And again, I've said the target has been the Al-Aqsa Mosque, or the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is known as the City of Peace. So to cause destruction in the City of Peace and then offering a new form of peace, right? But going back to the shrine, the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem is also called a shrine, right? I remember I was talking before about the homage to the sacred space, and look at all the stuff and the energy that they've set up around the shrine, and the events that occurred there in the last few years. And there's been certain changes made to the shrine. I still think this is an important thing, and being on the 144th latitude east, yeah, I don't know if that plays into it at all. But fuck, there's so many more things I could talk about. But yeah, so 8/11 again, I can see that as a form of splitting the 8, to divide the 8 into 2, right, to separate the two realities. So I think through what it says in the Bible, the second seal, it says he will take peace from the earth. It's kind of all set there. And with the breakdown of the first seal of the apocalypse, it was undeniable that patterned blueprint played out, that this one seems to be playing it as well. But how much of that can we control, and how much can we control through our own level of consciousness that can impact that? And what is happening on the outside, what's that saying about what's happening to us? So if you're taking peace from the earth, what's that going to do? It's going to again be an offering. It's going to bring people back to peace. So, you know, it's kind of like a ritual that maybe we need to go through. I don't know. But yeah, I just want to say, like, for the people that are messaging me about stuff, and, you know, like, people have got some real kind of scrambled ideas about what she's posting, and I don't want anyone to, like, approach things with fear. Like, I'm not fearful about any of this stuff. If you want to get prepped, if you feel that's within you, that you need to be prepped for certain things, then do it. Like, take the precautions to do so. And I think the mental preparation is always the best bit. That's why I said, like, when COVID happened, I wouldn't say I was fully prepared, but, like, I was definitely prepared more than other people that were confused and didn't kind of know what was going on, because I had already made that decision a long time prior to that coming. I already knew they were going to vaccinate the world, and I already knew what my stance would be. So when the time came, it was like, all right, let's just fucking rock and roll. And it's the same with this too. And I think a lot of it is to just be the calming effect and being able to point things out to people that can't see it. And it's interesting because it's going to be another layer of awakening for people, because the real push of this seal is going to be around people's belief system in religion too, because they really want to create this Muslim-Christian divide through manipulated and orchestrated events. And that's why I've been pointing out for so long, so many people have been jumping and running towards dogmatic fundamental religion as a point of going back to what they knew and trying to find some sense of understanding of their place in the world and the higher perspective of what's going on, that they've gone back into religion. But really, it's going to be, that's the thing that's going to be used against you during this time too, because they're going to play off those differences against each other, and it's going to be a very passionate time for people that are stuck in certain dogmatic belief systems. And hey, this is why we run Sky to Earth Conference, to crack people open to a different way of thinking, and to question things, and to question themselves and their own belief systems, and not look at everything like so fundamentally and dogmatic, and to be open to all possibilities, and to be open to know that they don't know it all. As you know, me and Madeline, who are co-hosting it, absolutely are in that category, that we fucking don't know anything. We know very little, and that's it's a constant growth and understanding. And the stuff that we do know, we always know that there's far many more layers of things to know about it. Like this, that's why I love that we're bringing Annette on, because she's talking about other elements of things that we've spoken about from a completely different perspective and a completely different layer. And that's exactly why we asked her to come on, because she represents being able to look at things with humility, and look and be prepared to know that you only know what you know now, and that there's always more layers to this. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I've probably gone on a bit too long, but yeah, if you want to join Sky Earth Conference, I'll post I've got a promo video, so I'll post that up tomorrow, and yeah, it's going to be really cool. And cheers, Mel, for the Remedy cap. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I'm going to be at the Remedy event on November 2nd, actually. So if you're there, it'd be cool.
And then on October the 21st, I was in an RV. I was touring. We had just made a stop, and then I found the latest tweets where he said, in other words, but more or less what he said, we are now logged in on 39 different locations. It would be London, Manchester, Paris, Barcelona, and Rotterdam, and Sweden. The time duration will be 36 hours, and the date will be October 23 and 24.
So you're thinking they're planning to do a massive.
I did not
simultaneous, know. Yeah.
I did not know, but when I put it together, it's also that I've over the years I've learned the lingo from many of these black ops, you know. So when somebody says something like that, and then who has been involved in at least Stockholm, but also it seemed to me like where he has been, that he could very well have been in the location coordinating some of the other stuff as well. We have now locked in. We've decided on 39 locations, time duration 36 hours, the date October 23 and 24, and the locations as well. He said London, Manchester, Paris, Barcelona, and Rotterdam. In my world, I was like, what on earth is that? You know, because to me it sounded like if either I completely misunderstand the whole thing and they're having like 39 coordinated meetings in these areas, or security drills, if that is the whole thing. So, but within the time duration of 36 hours, or if he is the bad boy that I believe he is, then what on earth are they planning? This was on October the 21st. They said we're going to go live October the 23rd, meaning that I stumbled across this before it had been activated, whatever that was. Case would be in strategic positions, whatever that meant. I would say government buildings so that they attack themselves, so that would justify whatever. Yeah, it would be like public places, train stations, bus stations, airports, water, you know, knock out the internet, knock out the water supply, all of these things to make an absolute chaotic situation, and all the time being pointed towards the Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whatever boogeyman they want to point at. You know,
39 is interesting too, because they love the number 13, and it's 3 times 13, and everything has
right in, and then you rebirth out.
That's what the human heart is. It's a place that has doors open, portals open to different places.
Purpose is to end slavery.
Infinite. We don't end.
Because we're infinite beings, right? We're the culmination of all that we've been, seen and done.
Okay, and at a lifetime level, this is what our ruling number represents.
We need each other to be different to harmonise each other.
You start noticing things what insects are doing. It also helps you understand what's going on with all the bigger things, you know.
Those come from the law of nature, because it deals with only natural things.
Okay, what's the core message? How does all these things interrelate?
Different positive sides of different things as well. Being able to take in both of those and hold them and discuss them, I think we attract absolute legends.